I was part of the Ryan report. I was sent away to Artane and Clonmel when listening to it from Mission School. And from Mission School I ended up getting abused by fucking paedophiles. This state that gave control to the priests and Christian brothers.
We're going to be cleaning it tomorrow. Look at our brushes.
You want more than that?
We are cleaning up the country.
Let's hope. Anyway, look, let's hope the country gets sense and we all vote yes and give women a choice.
Yeah, and give us a chance over there, having to put up with mopping up.
Can I give you a hug?
Can we give you a hug?
Hypocrisy about this place today.
Yeah, we've had enough of it. Any chance you'd shut the floodgates and let me retire?
You know the amazing thing is, we did 1983 and you're still back fighting the fight. You just won't give up. So thank you.
We have people from Speaking WITH IMELDA here. They're a creative activism group that have been working for 5-6 years now. Yeah. They were cleaning Patrick Street yesterday and they'll be interviewing people outside our office from 1 to 3. Please come along and talk to Speaking WITH IMELDA.
Together for Yes is like a coalition of all of the groups that have been working really hard in the last years fighting for a referendum. Myself, I'm a member of Parents for Choice. Michelle Hart's story is one that's just stuck with me always throughout this campaign. Michelle was receiving cancer treatment in the CUH here in Cork, and it was found out during her treatment that she had fallen pregnant, and the team that were treating her advised her to have a termination because it was going to put her life at risk. Her treatment would have to stop. She wasn't physically able to be pregnant. But the ethics committee in the Cork University Hospital decided that her life wasn't under immediate risk. Like, you have to be actually dying. Like, is that the kind of healthcare we deserve? You have to be dying before someone will step in and help. She went 5 weeks without cancer treatment. She went to the UK, she had her termination. She actually had to be physically lifted onto the plane. She was so weak and so ill. Like, it's heartbreaking to think that that happened, you know. When she travelled back home to Ireland from the UK after the termination, she had another scan and they realised the cancer had spread to her brain and she passed away.
I came here as a student first and I didn't even realise what the laws were here for a couple of years until I had a pregnancy scare. Happily, it turned out that I wasn't, but when I was in that panic, I did all of the research to find out what I would have to do, and I expected something, anything, other than having to, you know, have all of the funds and all of the resources to get myself to the UK to deal with it.
I have decided that I would like to speak to my father about what his ideas on repealing the 8th Amendment are.
My age group will look back and say, look, if my daughter was raped or she was a victim of incest, I don't doubt for a minute that they'd say yes, get an abortion within the 12 weeks, which is very reasonable.
1 of 5 girls will be raped or sexually assaulted in this country. But I do find when it comes to rape, there really isn't a choice. It's kind of what decision can they make for themselves, because they haven't chosen to be raped. Most are raped by somebody who they know. They're shocked about it. Very often it could even be weeks later before they realise they're pregnant, because they're raped when they're asleep, they're raped when they're drunk, and they mightn't remember it. And through the shock of all that, they have to deal with then the consequences of maybe later on realising they're pregnant. And I get outraged that anybody would try and make a decision for them. And like I say, they don't choose easily to go to the UK or to go to Amsterdam or wherever they have to go. So you're still putting your hands across and meeting people when they go over, and that needs to stop.
So
So can you tell us what kind of sex education you got in school?
Yeah. Well, the angel Gabriel came to the Virgin Mary and said, God would like you to have this child. And she said, yes. That's like, did not get sex education. I was not educated in contraception or sex.
We are in Cork at Bessborough, the Mother and Baby home, which is now under investigation again over the graves, and we're here in the graveyard.
There was a lot of concern around the time that the state was founded about what to do with unmarried mothers, a lot of concern about female sexuality. Around 1922, the Sacred Heart Order of Nuns was invited to come to Ireland and establish a home at Bessborough. The Mother and Baby home became a place in which women were taken out of society, often treated with cruelty. It's hard for us to imagine now how a person could simply be locked up behind walls, find herself told what she was to do, made to wear a uniform, made to stay there for as long as the nuns wanted to detain her. And it's an indication of the kind of society it was, that people became passive and did what they were told in these places. It's an indication as well of how women were shamed, often for things that were not their responsibility. You had people placed in these places who were raped, who were victims of incest, and the way in which the state dealt with them was to hide them away. Women and women's needs have been invisible in the debate. We've only begun to understand what women go through in pregnancy in the past 3 or 4 years, and perhaps only really had that summarised in a way in which people could hear and could listen to, with the evidence that was given to the Citizens' Assembly and to the Oireachtas Committee, where we've had obstetricians saying we need to repeal the 8th Amendment because it interferes with women's health care, with pregnant women's health care. The issue has been a class issue throughout all of these years. Women who had money could afford to travel. Women who didn't have money had no options, whether it was that they were facing going into a mother and baby home, or whether they were going to have a child that essentially they could not afford to rear, or whether they were facing serious health issues because of their pregnancy. Women with money have always had options, and women without money have always been left with no option whatsoever.
Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help or sought thy intercession, was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence I fly to thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother, to thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me.
Grotto. It's Ballinspittle. We're in Ballinspittle in County Cork, and busloads upon busloads used to come here to pray at this grotto back, I don't know, 20 more years ago.
1985. July 1985.
July 1985 was the we were children.
Sunday.
We were children in the parish.
Yeah.
And I used to come here. There's a little cabin there. The rosary used to be said out of there. And I used to come down and sing. My aunt used to play the organ, and I'd come down and sing the Ave Marias and all that.
And how many people would be down here at that time?
Oh, hundreds. This whole embankment here was thronged.
Yeah, what was that like as an experience for you?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, yeah, as a child, I was like, yeah, I see it moving.
We were the complete opposite. We were ostracised from the community completely because my parents actually ended up separating. My mother left, but we were the only ones in the community in that situation. The priest came to our house at one point and asked my dad if we wouldn't come to the church to make our first Holy Communion because of our situation. We were told like that we weren't allowed to come to people's houses and that they weren't allowed to come to ours because of the way we were and stuff. So I felt like at the time this was happening, that this wasn't something I was allowed to be a part of. So I would have been 6 when this was going on. I think for a long time I felt quite angry because it was so hypocritical. And I think now, where is the compassion? You know, that they were seen to come here to be so enthralled by this compassionate religion, and yet standing down there in the corner isolated was a small child who did nothing wrong. There is a massive amount of hypocrisy there, and it needs to be said.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to be said that this happened and all these people came down here. And 1 year before that, in 1984, when I.M.E.L.D.A was found in front of the grotto, her school teacher, Sister Plunkett, the principal of the secondary school she attended, gave an interview to RT and said, we would have, had we had known that Anne was pregnant, we would have taken her with understanding and compassion. Now in 1984, the understanding and compassion would have been Magdalene Laundry, and it's no secret what happened there, which, you know, I think it can be said would not have been neither understanding or compassionate. So we've suffered enough in the name of something that was supposed to have been compassion, and we've held enough secrets, and it's now our time and the women of this generation, of our generation, to reclaim those secrets and to really, really give it what it deserves. All we're asking for is healthcare. We're not asking for anything else.
Because we can't support women if they have to take off to England every time. How can we support them with psychological support, empathetic support, a hug? You know, really simple things cannot happen because of the situation we are in.
So I made the christening back in 2010. Growing up as a teenager and into my 20s in college, I didn't have an abortion, but I certainly had friends who did, who went on that journey, who told it to you quietly someday on a bus and came out as such and then went back in and didn't tell their parents. And I always felt that actually they were carrying a burden of the lie, and that it, you know, obviously extreme cases like rape are very traumatic, but that there were lots of us who were just going around with this lie on behalf of ourselves or our friends. So I wanted to tell that story.
One of the things that's striking about the christening is the journey is shown, you know, the journey of this young girl on her own going to somewhere she's probably never been and making that journey and going into a clinic in a foreign country, and all of the anxiousness and the aloneness and everything that comes with that journey.
Yeah, and the silence of that journey in our culture has been profound, and I think hopefully we will see more and more stories being told, because I think there's such room for that. And I think it's really important, actually, this harnessing of female energy, solidarity and support. And obviously, you know, there's been lots of movements historically where women have come out, but I think we are living through a very, very particular moment in Ireland.
Be your own media for choice.